You joined me for what could have been my most chaotic race ever. However, in the race, iRacing content creator based Collie will feature a lot. Not all of the encounters will be good though, so let's get on with the race. So like I explained, we're starting P9 for this race, and for the F4s you want to start at like half throttle. It minimises the wheel spin. You can see on the relative basic Collie starting P12 behind us, so we've got a few cars in between us, but we'll soon have our first encounter. We get a pretty decent launch. We don't lose or gain any positions, but the positions are usually to be gained in turn one, where everyone sort of gets backed up. I'm trying to go around the outside, but can't really make it work. But now if you look in our mirror, we've got a car to the right of us, but I managed to fend this off going into this downhill right-hander. But I also slightly get backed up, and this gives car number 10 the opportunity to go around the outside. And he also now has slightly more draft than me from car number 4, so he ends up pulling ahead of me and I slot behind him. I'm now going to look to the left, but I can't see any gap there. He covers this off nicely. So I'm going to try and do something around the outside, but he breaks quite late. I'm trying to go for the switchback, but once again, he holds quite a tight line, probably trying to cut back on number 4, but it doesn't work. But this puts me on the outside for this uphill left-hander, which isn't the easiest of corners when you're by yourself anyway. But I managed to hold it, and through the fast right-hander there with 2 wide, and now into the downhill left-hander, it's quite difficult to hold it around the outside here, because it's such a late braking zone anyway. And like I explained, he does end up going in front of us, because it is very difficult to hold around the outside there. But so far we've lost one position, but you're going to see later on to the race, we're really going to shuffle up and get packed in and separate from P6 upwards, and we're going to form into a separate pack. But we're going to try and get P10 back, because any track position is good track position. As we see a car flying off into the gravel there, 2 cars actually, which usually happens on lap 1 of these races. That corner especially always causes trouble. As the cars up ahead are going too wide, and they're too wide through the final corner as well, they can't really hold it. So it gives car number 16 a poor exit. So now car number 10 is going to try and look up the inside here. Car number 16 sort of covers the inside. Car number 10 could have held it there really. But now they're side by side going to turn 1, and I'm going to try and look to capitalise off this, as we're now in P8. So we've gained 1 position. I'm going to try and take my normal line here. I get a really good run on car number 10, so I'm now up the inside, but I'm going to get backed up a little bit here from car number 16 as I slam on the brakes and just lock up slightly, and car number 10 gets alongside car number 16 again, but I couldn't really do much about that. It ended up being the outside line being the better line, as there's lots of pushing and shoving up ahead. And now I'm going to go defensive from car number 8 behind us. Who's going to hold us really close to the inside, but I'm going to try and brake as late as possible. I'm going to try and keep this position. I nearly go up the inside of car number 16 as they have a really huge moment there. Car number 10 nearly loses it. Briefly, we were 3 wide there going into the uphill left-hander here. I'm now 2 wide with car number 16. Great racing here. We just leave each other just enough room. I'm going to hold it around the outside here. Car number 10 gives 16 a little push, and I'm going to be late to the brakes into this downhill left-hander. I'm going to just nip in front of him, and now the cars behind are going too wide, which is good for me if they just slow each other down as much as possible, as there's loads of contact behind. But that gives me a little bit of a breather into this flat-out section now, because whenever a car has a lot of draft into this heavy braking zone up here, it's really common for moves. So you want to have as big a gap as possible. I'm hoping car number 10 behind is not going to try and make a move. He goes to the right. I'm going to brake later than him, but then he lifts off the brakes. I sort of panic. I nearly go into the gravel, but I hold him tight on the right here. I'm going to keep it flat. He ends up backing off ever so slightly, and there's nearly a huge crash behind as well. He's going to send it into the final corner, but I hold him quite tight, which allows me to stay on the track on the exit, and it actually ends up giving him a really bad run up the straight. And I see this, so I'm going to try. I'm in the grass momentarily there, but I'm going to hold the inside line going into turn 1. But you can see the run he's got. He nearly takes me out. It's a huge push in the back from car number 10 behind, which wasn't really on, to be honest. but we're all okay. I was hoping I didn't get any damage from that. And now I run right wide into the grass, which isn't great. And I don't defend it because I think that probably would have caused a crash with the with the backing up of the pack behind us. So I'm going to try and get him into the next left-hander up here. I'm going to try and get late on the brakes as possible. This driver's quite an aggressive driver by the looks of it, but I'm going to try and race him as hard but as fair as possible. There's contact going into the corner. I'm going to try and brake as late as possible. He brakes just a little bit later, but he slightly overshoots. I'm going to try and get a run here. I'm going to try and go around the outside. Instead, I actually get a really good switchback. I'm going to try and get alongside. I'm going to look for the inside line there. He's slightly offline. I don't turn in early enough, so that kills my run into the downhill left-hander here, and I can't really make a move. Great racing so far. Hard but fair racing, I'd say. There's not been any major crashes. But this is the pack I was talking about now. You can see P5 onwards up ahead of us, all the way up to P1. All just in their separate pack. And we don't have any slipstream in front of us now. So the gap's just going to get ever larger. But now I get a really good run on car number 10 here for P6. I'm now on the outside line going into the right-hander. I'm going to get as late on the brakes as possible. He brakes slightly later. There's a little bit of contact. I go into the gravel. I'm now off. Basic Ollie's behind me now, but I leave him just enough room, and I managed to sneak in front of him going into the last corner. So I lost a few positions there, just a couple, as car number 10 runs slightly wide into the gravel up ahead. I'm now going to try and get a run on car number 24 up ahead of us. I'm going to make a 0x as I cut to the left at the last moment. But we're now too wide on too wide going into turn 1 here. And you're going to see a bit of a racing incident, in my opinion. He brakes really early. Usually you brake at the 1 board, and he broke in between the 1 and the 2 board, which doesn't seem like much, but yeah, it was enough for me to go into the back of him. But I've gotten away with 0 wing damage, so that's all I really worry about at this moment. But you're going to notice now I'm side by side with Basic Ollie going into his left-hander here, which I'm always quite nervous about because I don't really want any incidents between me and a streamer or anything, because yeah, it's always just a bit awkward when you watch back on the stream. But I managed to brake slightly later. I cut in front of him. Car number 24 has a huge moment as he dips the tyre in the gravel. I'm going to get later on the brakes into this left-hander here. He's just still alongside me. There's contact made. He nearly gets pushed off. We're still too wide going to the fast right-hander here. It's great racing, really close racing, as he tries to hold it flat through there as well. And I brake at the curb on the right there. I have a lock-up. I'm sliding, but I've got the inside line for this corner here, so I'm safe for the moment. But car number 10 up ahead, building a little bit of a gap, so I'm really wanting to try and get my head down and get back in the slipstream. Otherwise, we could end up having a problem later on, as we see a sarcastic wow from the driver I took out in turn 1. But like I said, he brakes very early compared to our normal braking points, so I can't really blame myself on that one. And I think it's his doing. I mean, I can see why, because he's going too wide into turn 1, but yeah, you should really just brake at your normal braking point when you've got someone so close behind you. But that's just the nature of these F4 races, really, and that stuff will always happen. As we've got a bit of breathing room to the car behind now, which when I say breathing room is only 0.4 of a second, which will quickly shorten down after this straight. But we're currently in P7, so that's 2 places higher than when we started. And we've had a few encounters with Basic Ollie already, but trust me, there's going to be many more later on into the race. But you'll see there into turn 1 where our normal braking point is. You're really sharp on the brakes at the 1 board, get the car rotated in, and you go down to 3rd gear here. As you see, there's absolute chaos at the front of the field as car number 10 runs through the grass as well. But they're going too wide on too wide up at the front, which I sort of am hopeful to catch up with them at some point, but unfortunately never ends up happening. I tried to signal to car number 24 here, maybe just like for him to back off so we could possibly catch up, but he still decides to send it, which I think is fair enough, to be honest. But I'm later on the brakes there, and it actually kills his run on the exit. I'm going to hold him tight into this left-hander here, which forces him to back out, really. It's putting a lot of trust in the car behind that he will end up backing out, otherwise I'll get taken out. But I don't really want him sending a move here, so I'm just going to hold the inside line. He just has a slight front wing alongside, but nothing major, so I'll just cover him off because going defensive will lose us less time than actually fighting. So that was the decision I made, as we're now getting really close to car behind, and he touches me, and yeah, we go into the barrier. Thankfully, I don't actually really get any damage from it somehow, and we lose a handful of positions, including to base collie there, and we go 3 wide like 2 times. But yeah, basically what happened there was he just got too close behind. He didn't lift going to the right-hander, which I don't know what he was doing there. And his front wing ends up making contact with the back of my car, which ends up nearly spinning my car. My wheel isn't really secure enough on the base for when there's moments like that. It's not entirely rigid, so then sometimes it'll make the pins lose connection. So then my pit limiter got enabled as well, which then slowed me down, and it kept on going to the back of me, so a bit chaotic there. Talking about chaotic, we've now got a car on the left going through the gravel, so that's 1 place gained. That was P4, so he's had a bit of a horrible time there. But we see basically trying to make a few more positions up ahead. As we're getting on towards the latter end of the race as well, you see 3 minutes left in the bottom right corner there. But like I explained, it's a chaotic race. We're all very close still. We're in our 2 separate packs. Now car number 11 is going to go up the inside of basically. He's going to lock. He's going to go into the side of him. I'm going to try and avoid him, but I clip the back of his car. I go flying off. And when those moments happen, you never get away with no meatball flag. So I have now been given a meatball flag and have to come into the pit lane. Thankfully with these cars though, you do have a fast repair given, which is unlike any of the other GT4, GT3 IMSA races. So that's a bonus. However, that's not going to make you lose any less positions, especially with a pit lane like Road America, which isn't exactly a short pit lane. And unfortunately as well, this was actually the penultimate lap of the race, so we're not going to have any other opportunity to catch up back with the pack and get any positions back. So it's just a bit unfortunate there, and I couldn't have really done much more to avoid him. I mean, when you look back at hindsight, maybe I could have slammed on the brakes, turned more to the right, but it was always going to happen. And it's just unfortunate that the car on the left, which sends up the inside of basically, he ended up locking up, running wide, and it was wheel-to-wheel contact, and it just made basically a spin. And yeah, I couldn't win too much. I was in a difficult position on the outside. So now all I can do is just come in, serve my fast repair. You see the car ahead's also got a fast repair, as there's no penalties given in this race. It's just disqualification when you get to 17 incident points. And you can see I'm on 16 incident points, so 1 more off track and I'm disqualified, which I don't really want to, because that's even more iRacing or safety rating lost. So we go into the pits, fast repair served straight away, going, and we're now 2 wide going on the pit exit. I'm now going to disable my limiter just a bit earlier than him, so that's 1 position to put an end to our race, and we're going to end up crossing the line in P17. It's quite a disappointing result considering we were fighting so high up in the grid, but the battling was great, and it's quite hard but fair racing, and it's just unfortunate about the incident. I couldn't do anything about it. No one else really could. It was just an unfortunate lock-up. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the race, and hopefully I'll get to do more F4 races in the future because I really enjoyed it. So catch you in another video.